Yo guys, this is Reinhardt, and this is gonna be a video about kind of a number crunching theory crafting about unholy decays, the total combined feedback. And as you guys can tell, I did my homework. This video is for Skullflower decay. Hopefully you're watching this video, or possibly even Celestialon, because I want to address a lot of main issues that Unholy has, and to be honest, kind of decays in general have coming into the Legion, to the point of not even the number crunching, because maybe the numbers will come in and make a little bit more sense down the road, like Scourge Strike will hit more than Opportunity Strike by Warriors, but I want to talk about the core design problems of the specs. And if you guys can see, I did quite a bit of homework, and then first two links, one is going to be Skullflower, second will be Celestialon, third one will be my forum post down below in the description. If you guys can, to whoever's watching and would like to have Unholy be viable, send them a text, make sure that they get this video and they actually can see it, because I do believe they get spammed quite a lot. So with that said, we're gonna start talking about the very first thing is safe is not good. So the Skullflower, I understand what you created. You created a really kind of a safe bubble for unholy decays, where a lot of our damage in PvE gets buffered up and not affected in PvP. The good example is 20 stack necrotic, or easier to hold on to the Breath of Sindragosa, or multi-strike Scourge Strike, for example. And multi-strike is twice as much nerfed in PvP versus PvE. Soul Reaper 45%, and then Gargoyle lasting 40 seconds instead of lasting 30 or 20 seconds like it's supposed to back in the previous expansions. All of that basically prolongs, gives us a lot of buffer, a lot of small damage that will add up quite nicely in competitive rating. However, in PvP it's a total disaster, because the more small damage we have in PvP, the less of a kill opportunities we create as a players. And the less opportunities we create as a players ultimately make our spec a lot less enjoyable to play and a lot more non-viable. Hence why not a lot on Unholy decays queue over 2200 rating, because the spec is just, you have to do 2 or 3 times more, put in 2 or 3 times more effort for pretty much half the rewards of the Frost or the Warrior. So first we're going to talk about the PvE artifact talents are not applicable in PvP, and this is a big one for me. Me playing this game from PvP standpoint as a main, kind of a source of my entertainment, I really don't want to, I don't even think of me putting a talents out here that ultimately will do nothing but essentially nothing for me in my main spec when it comes to PvP. So like Fallen Crusader, right now Fallen Crusader is not getting affected. So okay, it used to be 100%, now it's only 21%. So what that means is that essentially 18% of our strength is gone in PvP. So in PvE we at least can heal up to 15% from auto attacks, and then our 18% our strength buffs is applicable in PvE. However, in PvP that's completely lost. Shamblers, that doesn't work. Maybe it's a bug, but it doesn't work. That's in Decay. Army of the Dead, another reason why, yes, we can start a fight with all the Army of the Dead up there, but they don't proc, they don't do anything right now for us. The weapon doesn't proc any Army of the Dead, so this is essentially a lost talent, where ghouls summoned by the Army of the Dead apply additional effects via Claw. And then we're looking at this, your Army of the Dead ghouls explode when they die. So we're looking at the 1, 2, 3, 4 talents that are handpicked for PvE, are not even applicable remotely in PvP. Yes, they can tune up our damage, yes, they can give us extra strength, yes, they can give us extra stamina, but ultimately it feels like a band-aid to a really mediocre design choices, because in my opinion, I look at the Frost Mages, I look at all the other specs, and very rarely do I see anything that is applicable in PvE only doesn't get transferred in PvP. However, this is ongoing theme. From Warlords of Draenor, where we had a lot of handpicked PvE mechanics that won't transfer to PvP, we have the same thing going. So that's the first thing. Talents are underwhelming and not rewarding. So if we pull up our talents, the main talent choices. So we're looking at this, and Virulent Plague does 50% damage 50% more frequently. But the Virulent Plague, okay, it's 8,700 damage. In Battlegrounds, it gets up to 13,000 damage on a 2.7, 2.5 million HP pools. How is that even warranted? Why are we doing basically Cataclysm, less than Mist of Pandaria or Worlds of Draenor, that damage, while everybody's HP pools went up so much higher? So with that said, I just don't matter. Like, I calculated our dot does about, well, let's say 5k DPS. So we can actually pick up the talent and we'll do 7.5k DPS. But what is 2.5k DPS gained from the talent? It's not much at all. Same thing with the little second ghoul that was summoned. It only hits for 20,000. Again, all of these talents are passive choices to the point where they do a little bit alteration in our playstyle, but not even enough. That's why the talents feel really, really bad, essentially. This one, your next 3 auto attacks, in fact, target with the 2 festering wounds. Like, this one is not really that great in PvP. Pestilence Pustules are not great also. Maybe, in fact, the claws are semi-decent. But we're looking at every single talent, and unless it's a Clawing Shadows, Corpse Shield, everything else looks very mediocre. Maybe Sludge Belcher. So the 3 talents in 3 different tiers are somewhat stand out. And 2 of them not even damage related, are just utilities related. Why would I want to press a Soul Reaper that hits for 53,000 damage and then can proc 48,000 damage worth of Festering Wounds? Well, what is that? Like 60k damage? So how much is it gonna take? Like 2%, maybe 3% of somebody else's HP? Like, on a 30-second cooldown ability. Yes, it gives you Runic Corruption, but in PvP it's not about the Runic Corruption. It's about how much damage we can put out in how many globals. If we're gonna have an extremely slow Runic power generation, but all of our rune abilities will hit much harder, that actually will make us more viable in PvP versus PvE. So, and then the centralized spec, because we have, technically I would say, too much going on. We have Enrage Pet, we have Festering Wounds, we have Strikes, we have Death Coils, we have Dots, we have 2 different pets, up to 3 different pets, we have Army of the Dead in PvE. All of that takes the identity of the class that was supposed to be very, very fearsome knight and just chunks the damage out of it. And to the point where, because we have so much little damage coming in from all these different multiple sources, none of those sources really matter. None of our strikes are negligible. In Battlegrounds with a Death Coil, our Scourge Strike fits for 160,000 damage. It requires 3 global setups. Put a target Festering Wounds, make sure you have Runic Power to put a Death Coil debuff, and then hit target with a Scourge Strike, and you'll do like 160k damage. And then the warrior charges on me and he's 1 opportunity strike. The passive auto attack procs hits for 150,000 damage on me. Why is my globals worth as much as the crappy auto attack procs from the warriors? So that's why it feels very decentralized. Now let's talk a little bit about defensive nerfs and how big they are. So this is what we lost. We lost Death Siphon, we lost Death Pact, we lost Lichborn healing, we lost Fallen Crusader healing, we lost Blood Presence, we lost extra trinket via Desecrated Ground. Our AMS with the regenerative glyph, regenerative magic, lasted anywhere from 27 to 35 seconds. Now it's a 60-second cooldown. So our Anti-Magic Shell got nerfed by twice. Plague Lich Blood Taps are removed. That helped us to actually put on-demand Chain of Ice to kite. Our D&D Slow, the glyph that makes Doesn't Decay slow, that gave us cutting opportunities, also got removed. Our Stuns, Asphyxiate, got removed. Essentially, it's almost a garbage, not point taking. Our Roots got removed. The amount of parries we had, because we had a Fallen Crusader, we had lots of strengths coming in. A lot of that is got nerfed, so we actually parry a lot less. What did we gain? We gained Corpse Shield, we gained essentially Death Strike casting runic power, and because we get a little bit too much, like we get a lot of runic power, it's okay, but it's a 7% heal. And then from the PvP talents, we can pick Cadaverous Pallor, which is this one right here, which essentially it's a good against like a magical damage, but I still need to test it. So basically what happened is we lost about 11 to 12 decent survivability mechanics, and we only gained about 3.5 if we're including the Wraith Walk, which I'm going to talk a little bit early because it's a freaking joke. So survivability got nerfed quite a lot. The second biggest problem is this one right here that nobody wants to talk about it. It's a scripting and botting problems on the horizon. Why it made the case much more difficult to script? Because we had a different runes going for us. We had a different, essentially, runes conversion. We would try to build up our death runes to go for the, for example, Necrotic Strike stacking burst or Scourge Strike burst. We would try to sit on a runic power. So that's gone. Different runes sitting on the death runes. Second thing, the first thing, Festering Strikes versus Scourge Strikes on the Necrotic Plague. While I don't like Necrotic Plague mechanic because I think it takes too much of our personal damage, however, in PvP, we'll constantly make decisions. If we have 3 seconds remaining on our Necrotic Plague at 20 stacks, we would sacrifice those death runes to make a Festering Strikes. However, because it's no longer the case, we technically don't have the option in our head to kind of analyze the situation whether we should Scourge Strike or Festering Strike. Rune Tap / Plague Lich mechanics are left as well, where we would sit on those death runes for more burst. All runes became the same, so there's no rune management. There's no stance dancing, there's no blood presence, there's no going to unholy presence, there's no going to frost presence. All of that simplification, all of that kind of a deniance of a choice or analyzing how our damage properly should be constructed in PvP is gone. And because of that, it will make people who create those bots, create those scripts, make their jobs a lot easier. The easier the spec to play, the easier it is to bot. That's another big problem. The third big problem is utilities nerf. Unholy. When's the last time Unholy participated in a BlizzCon? I'll tell you. There was one Unholy decay in the beginning of Mr. Pandaria, and that's it. Like, for almost second expansion, decays got shafted. Not even the top 3 teams, not even the top 5 teams was decay representing themselves. Yet, for some reason, we lost the most amount of utilities out of any other classes. We lost our Asphyxiate, we lost Strangulate, Baseline, that also let us choose either Death Advance or Runes via Chillblade. So you either go with Asphyxiate or you go with that. Our Pet Stun got nerfed down to 1 or 2 seconds, down from 3 or 4 seconds, and the cooldown got increased to 1.5 minutes. We lost Dark Simulacrum Baseline, we lost Icy Touch, we lost Death and Decay Snare, we lost Paid Charge if we go for the second grip, we lost Remorseless Winter, we lost Desecrated Ground, we lost Lichborn to get out of CCs. So we're going to be sitting in a lot more CCs. However, what did we gain? We gained second grip via our Belcher, whatever it's called, Sludge Belcher. And then what else did we get? We get a 20% other max HP reduction or 30% cooldown increase aura. We gain possible stun via at the cost of the necrotic. So if we're not gonna spec a necrotic and we go for the reanimation that hits for 14,000, again, what is this damage? 14,000, that's crap. It stuns for 3 seconds, it requires 2 runes, and have a 5-second cooldown, and the zombie has only 5 HP, so it can be easily AoE'd. So maybe possibly we can spam, and it also requires the corpse. If it doesn't require the corpse, maybe we can even use an arena, and where this ghost is, and we can grip to it and have it stunned for 3 seconds. But that's a stretch, saying that we gain it as a. And then the Wraith Walk. This walk right over here. Okay, so first of all, we're not immune to any damage at all whatsoever. Second, it's a 1 minute cooldown, which is okay, I guess okay. But we cannot press any buttons during that time. And then all moving and parrying effects are suppressed, but you may not attack. So you pretty much we limit ourselves, but this is good, kind of maybe possibly getting out of the like a sticky situations, but at least give us in the Wraith Walk maybe like 10-20% HP heal, and give us a 50% damage reduction while we're using the Wraith Walk, because otherwise it's underwhelming again. Then the next thing we have. So Wraith Walk is okay, but we got too many nerfs and not enough buffs. Yes, I understand all classes lost some kind of a survivability and the mechanics, but decays lost the most of the utilities, while they had the least amount of the utilities right over here. And basically, bad mobility, bad control, and bad damage, that's a recipe of the class not being viable for the entire expansion. And then, where did I put that? So, and here I basically made a post as well. Unholy looks bad. So, talking about the utilities, nerfs, talking about the bad mobility, talking about pretty much everything out there is just unrewarding. Now let's talk about the damage problems. We lost our area effect spread pressure versus good players. Yes, everybody can put out the Death and Decay and then do Scorch Strike, which actually doesn't work at the moment. But a Scorch Strike to spread our damage. But Scorch Strike hits without the glyph or anything, without the Death Call, hits for maybe it hits for like 4% of somebody else's HP, which is nothing. And then to top it off, on top of it, while it doesn't do really good damage, we also have this thing where people can avoid the Dust and Decay, they can get out of the Dust and Decay, and then there is basically there's not much you can do to maximize your damage via Dust and Decay to make it very competitive in PvP. Before that, we had this thing where Dust and Decay would grip people back, and that would actually allow us to actually set up some really good nasty area effect damage capability via Scorch Strike spam in the Dust and Decay. But now it doesn't let us do it anymore. So that's kind of gone. Then the next thing is unrewarding talents and globals. Borderline demoralizing. Soul Reaper. It's crap. Defile is mediocre. 12,000 damage. What is that number? 12,000 damage. What is the 63,000 damage will do for me when everybody sits at 1.5 million HP? I need what? 25 Scorch Strikes to kill somebody? Well, that's laughable. 25 seconds without them popping any defenses. Like 2 seconds less on that. Like none of the talents literally make any difference because the spec is so diluted at the moment with all of the crappy damage that none of the talent choices really matter. And this is where I'm saying lost identity, not gained. Okay? This is where my forum post right over here. So, lost identity, not gained. This is what I said. I can make any spec that can create millions of zombies, but if they all hit for very low damage, 0.1 damage, ultimately specs becomes not fun to play, not rewarding. More zombies doesn't mean more fun. Less zombies doesn't mean more fun. Everything has to make sense. We got more zombies, we got Zit Popping Mechanic, Festering Woods, we got Virulent Plague, but ultimately none of those things truly make a difference in the playstyle as the damage feels stale and unrewarding. They can tune the damage, it's true. However, the spec lost its identity and then we will be treading the fine line where the tune-up can be overpowered or underpowered. With the loss of the stuns, mobilities and utilities, decays should be hitting a lot harder than any other spec. But currently, decays are the lowest hitting spec with no good defenses. However, our Scorch Strike hits for 160k in Battlegrounds, and that's after we hit with the Festering Wound. We need the Death Call for this as well. Well, Warrior charges me with the 400 back-to-back Mortal Strikes, and the Opportunity Strike passive procs hits for 150k damage. That's the problem. The spec is so decentralized that the crappy Warrior auto attack procs hits as hard as our Scorch Strike globals. That should be addressed. This is absolutely unforgivable. If I spend my globals, I should be getting rewarded just as much as any other spec out there. identity of the spec was dot damage with a high strike damage in Wrath of the Lich King until 3.2 when the Scourge Strike became half and half damage, and the Scourge Strike would hit up to 15% of somebody else's health pool, or high dot damage plus necrotics in Cataclysm and Mists of Pandaria. The spec was competitive in PvP. Now all our damage is low as we have too much going on, hence why identity is lost. Identity was this unholy knight spreading diseases, rotting everything, doing lots of damage, to the point where this gimpy-ass knight with a bunch of zombies just playing like just a huge wannabe. That's what I feel like. I feel like I'm a wannabe other melee class. This is just this huge wannabe with a bunch of zombies, comes in, does no damage, and is a liability for his team. Again, the same thing, Spec Flavor's high-end PvE rating while completely disregarding problems in PvP. Yup, Skullflower, you did perfectly here. You set up the spec that is really good for PvE, not gonna lie. Okay, in PvE it doesn't matter if your abilities hit very hard or very low. Doesn't matter at all, because essentially it's all about the total damage that you put out. However, here in PvP we have only a few globals with our limited mobility to make something out of it. And the globals that hit 2 or 3 times less than any other class becomes a problem. Overall, bad design as only a selected few will get benefit from it. Our globals don't matter, our talents do very little to help us, feels unrewarding no matter what we do. Here's a suggestion, and the suggestion would be put right over here. This is what? Nobody enjoys the zit popping unrewarding playstyle. Does not deserve to be a core system of our spec, but something picked from the talents. This idea, nerf all our damage baseline, let us pick that from talents, make talents meaningful. Meaning, reduce our entire damage, but then give us that damage back from the talents to the point where our choices will truly matter. Okay? Make it a 3 different talent trees. Maybe here's a pet talent, here's a strike talent, here's a dot talent. Yeah, I put a few ideas, and obviously you can work with that too. Make it so we lose our, for example, pet enrage. By the way, yes, that's a prune. But it's a good prune, it's not a bad prune. There's 2 different ways you can prune the character. You can prune it to the point where what we have now in Legion will last Icy Touch, will last Plague Strikes, will last like 13 buttons in our rotation to begin with. And we gain crappy damage back. That's a bad prune. Make it so the prune actually makes sense. Like, remove our Dark Transformation, make it a talent. And then here, put a Festering Wounds, or have the dots stack up to 5 to 10 times, right over here. So this one for the pet talents, put in Rage here. Put a Festering Wounds as a core of rotation if we decide to go so. Put our dots stack up to 5 to 10 times here. So let us actually pick where we want our damage to come from, or more of our damage to come from strikes, from pets, from dots. Take off the gargoyle from the baseline, prune the fuck out of it, and put it in our talents. So we either pick the gargoyle, or we can pick the old school Soul Reaper at 35% HP, hitting for relatively good. Or make it so our pet infects a target with a dot that increases our dot damage by 20%. Stuff like that, to the point where it actually matters. Something like that, where we get to pick the playstyle we want, whether it's dot oriented or pet oriented or strike oriented. Currently we're so decentralized that none of the abilities or talents matter. We need a damage revision to the point where we get to pick our unique talents that alter our playstyle rather than diluting an already unrewarding spec. Hint, Soul Reaper, 60,000 damage on a 30-second cooldown. What the? Do something, Skullflower. Please, I'm begging you, because I want to enjoy this game. Just as much as everybody else. Just as much as the high-end raiders that benefit from a mechanics that you put in there that only benefit PvE raiders. I want to be one of those too that enjoy my class, but in PvP. Do something, as tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of players are not looking forward to playing a DK. You can't simply make the spec viable through hidden number crunching for high-end rating, not rating. rating, my bad. While everything else in the game that the game has to offer gets thrown into a garbage can. And that's it. That's all I have. 25s longest freaking video where I pretty much, I think I said everything else. Okay? If nothing has been done, then this damage numbers, 17,000, that a crit, 8.7 thousand. This damage numbers where we actually, like, the main damage, like this is how long it takes to ramp up the Scourge Strike. This 110,000 damage on the Scourge Strike. What is this? 77,000 damage on the Scourge Strike with a trinket proc. Wait, let's take off trinket. 44,000 damage Scourge Strike. Like this, where this damage is actually feels more rewarding. 95,000 Scourge Strikes on the 1.5 million HP pulls. This is really, really bad. Alright, our survivability is bad, our damage is bad, it's too decentralized to the point where none of the mechanics that we have truly matter. Please change it. Please. That's all I have. Thank you.